Thank you very much. Good morning. Welcome to the sitting of the Licensing Subcommittee. We are running slightly late today, for which I do apologise. Members, you have the agenda pack in front of you and a matter for your consideration this morning. First of all, can I ask you for elections of the chair, please?
Okay, good morning, everybody. Before we get started, I think we'll just identify everybody in the room. If we go this way round the room, my name's Simon Cronin. I'm chair for today. I'm councillor for Nunnery.
My name is Pat Agar. I'm a councillor for Nunnery also.
Vanessa Brad, I'm the legal advisor.
Noel McMenamin, Principal Licensing Officer. I'll be presenting the report on behalf of the City Council today.
Nikki Jones, Technical Licensing Officer for Worcestershire Regulatory Services.
I'm Councillor Disser, represent the Cathedral Ward. I'm here as a capacity of helping and advising these young gentlemen, I think, as a ward member. Many thanks.
Hasan Selik, I'm going to help them to translate if they need it.
Ismail Tekaj, I am the previous license holder, Worcester Kebab House owner.
Wakas Tengiz, I am the director.
Susanna Turner, I'm a resident of Shaw Street.
And I'm Georgina Smith, a resident also of Short Street.
I'm Councillor Chris Mitchell. I'm a councillor for St Clement Ward.
Thank you. So I'm just going to read this statement. Presentations to this subcommittee are not given under oath. However, I should like to remind all parties that the highest standards are expected, and any deviation from these high standards could possibly influence any decision of the subcommittee. Now, I just remind the representative, applicants, licence holders that you are entitled to legal representation. Do you have any legal representative?
No, we don't have it.
Okay. I'll just draw your attention. You should, on the table in front of you, all have this document with headed Committee Protocol Licensing Subcommittee, and it takes you step by step through the steps we'll follow in this hearing. So if you've all got that and you're happy for us to go ahead on that basis, we'll get started. When you come to make your representations, I should remind you there is a 10-minute limit time-wise. Now, I'm not going to be absolutely brutal on that, but if you can keep that in mind, after 10 minutes, if you still have more to say, we will get a warning that you've used your 10 minutes, and that'll just give you an opportunity to focus anything more you have to say. I don't want to stop you saying what you need to say, though. So I'm going to go to our licensing officer to present the report now.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, so if you'd like to turn to page number 1, agenda item number 3. This is an application for the grant of a new premises licence. So the purpose of today's report is to consider and determine an application for the grant of a new premises licence issued in respect of Worcester Kebab House. So a bit of background for members. On the 25th of May of this year, an application was received from Mangrove Limited for the grant of a new premises licence in respect of Worcester Kebab House, which is located at number 5 Shaw Street in Worcester. The application contained all of the prerequisite documents, including the fee and also a plan of the premises. We can also confirm that the application has been advertised in accordance with the requirements of the Licensing Act 2003 and the associated regulations, and it has also been served on all of the responsible authorities. So a copy of the application, so that's the full application, and also the plan are attached to your papers today. So they are attached at agenda item number 1 on page 5. And you'll see the application itself, which details the times, the licensable activities, which is namely late night refreshment, the days, and also a number of conditions which have been volunteered. Or rather, they haven't, sorry. On page 20 is where they would normally be put forward, but on this occasion there haven't been any. So the applicant is applying for the following licensable activities. So it's late night refreshment. This is a late night takeaway, and the days of operation are Monday from 11 p.m. until 2 a.m. On Tuesday, 11 till 3 a.m. On Wednesday, 11 till 3 a.m. Thursday, 11 till 3 a.m. Friday and Saturday, 11 till 3:30 a.m. And on Sunday, 11 till 1 a.m. So also a bit of background to help members. Our office records confirm that the premises previously benefited from a premises licence authorising late night refreshments, which was issued by Worcester City Council. The licence hold, however, was actually lapsed, and this was because the limited company which held the licence was dissolved in 2017. Under the Licensing Act, when a limited company which holds a premises licence is dissolved, the licence automatically lapses unless the licence is either transferred, to a new party or a new owner. That didn't happen, and therefore the licence automatically lapsed. So I've attached in the report a copy of the original licence. That licence was in place since 2005 when the local authority took on the responsibility for licensing, and I believe the business was actually operating prior to 2005, and I'm sure the applicants will be able to give you some insight into how long the business has actually been running for. So members, we move on to representations. So during the consultation period, no representations were received from any of the responsible authorities. The responsible authorities being the police, environmental health, planning, and all of the others, fire service, etc. However, we did receive a representation in response to the public notices, and that was a letter of representation submitted to the council, and it was objecting to the grant of the premises licence, and it was submitted on behalf of a number of residents from Shaw Street. A copy of their letter of representation is attached at Appendix 3. And as mentioned earlier, we also have two members or two residents of Shaw Street here to address the panel, should it be necessary. So should the time come and they feel that they wish to address the panel, they may wish to do so. So their representation expressed concerns in relation to increased levels of antisocial behaviour, noise pollution, and they cited that the granting of a premises licence was undermined the licensing objectives of crime and disorder, the prevention of public nuisance, and public safety licensing objectives. I don't propose to read through the letter because you've included in your papers and you will have had an opportunity to read it yourself. And again, the residents are here to sort of amplify any points of the letter should it be necessary. But I will go through some of the issues that were raised, and this is increases in litter, possible rodents from the activities of the kebab shop. The behaviour of intoxicated customers is a cause for concern, which has been highlighted in the letter of representation. Increased antisocial behaviour and noise nuisance from customers also frequenting the premises. Parking has been cited in there as a concern. However, you'll be aware that under the Licensing Act, unfortunately, parking isn't a matter for consideration of this committee. And they've also mentioned the cumulative impact of a number of late night takeaways in the area, which cause concern for the residents of Shore Street. Now that letter, although written by, I believe it was written by Georgina Smith and Sue Turner, was also signed by 15 other residents who were also included on the letter. So, councillors, local policy considerations. Excuse me, something's vibrating. We'll get rid of those. So, councillors, those are the representations that are before you. There are no other representations, as I mentioned, from the responsible authorities, so that is what we are here to consider today. So, the local policy considerations. So, as the subcommittee, you should have regard to the council's own statement of licensing policy under the Licensing Act. So, this is published and freely available. You're fully aware of it. There is a policy in place for the council to follow. Members should also note, which hasn't been highlighted in this report and it should have been, is that the premises falls within the special policy for community impact. Again, this is highlighted in chapter 12 of the council statement of licensing policy, which goes into detail about community impact. So in accordance with this special policy, any application for the grant of new premises licence, which would add to the community impact of certain premises, and this is the concentration of similar types of premises. In this instance, it's late night takeaways in a particular area, should have particular concern, and the starting point in this occasion is refusal. So the applicant must be able to demonstrate to you that any new application will not add to any problems that are already in the area. So that hopefully the applicant will be able to address the committee along those lines. The legal implications. You're obliged as a subcommittee to determine this application with a view to promoting the licensing objectives. These are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. A number of those have been cited in the representation. In making your decision, you're also obliged to have regard to the guidance which is issued by the Secretary of State and also the Council's own licensing policy, as I've mentioned previously. You must have regard to the representations made and also the evidence that you hear from the applicant when they present their application. There are a number of options for you at the end of having heard from the applicant and the objectors and having had legal advice. And those steps must be proportionate to promote the licensing objectives. So the options open to you are to grant the application as requested, modify the licence by altering or omitting to them or adding to them. So that's conditions, suitable conditions to address any concerns which have been raised, or reject the application in whole or in part. So those are the three options for you today. You can't modify the licence or add conditions just because you feel it desirable to do so. It must be to uphold the licensing objectives. So from the evidence that you've heard today, if you feel it appropriate to add conditions or modify them, then that is suitable, and that is an option for the panel. All parties to the hearing will be notified of the outcome. So at the end of the meeting, the decision will be read out, but you'll also receive official notification from the council of the outcome of this meeting today. And anybody aggrieved by the decision of the council has a right of appeal to the magistrates' courts. So this is an open and transparent process. Both the residents and also the applicants, should you be dissatisfied with the outcome, you have the right of appeal to the magistrates against that decision. So, councillors, having heard all of the information, you're asked today to consider and determine this application for a new premises licence in respect of the premises Worcester Kebab House on number 5 Shore Street. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Niall. I just have one question for now. Since the previous licence expired in 2017, have Worcestershire Regulatory Services been in contact over that issue with the operators of the premises since? Have you told them that they're operating without a licence?
No, Chair. And the reason for that is that we only became aware of the fact that the licence or limited company had been dissolved when one of the applicants today contacted the licence to transfer the licence. So that was very recently, within the last 2 months. Obviously, at that point, we undertake necessary checks, as we always do, to make sure that everything's in order. And it was at that point that it came to light that the limited company which held the licence had been dissolved by the original applicant, who I believe is here today. We hadn't been informed that it had been dissolved. We don't check limited companies as par for course. It's not something that local authorities do. It is the responsibility of the licence holder, as they are a limited company, and the directors to be aware of all of the legislation surrounding and how it affects their licence.
Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. A couple of questions, really. The first one, and it's probably semantic, but I'd like to get it clear anyway. The cumulative impact area, we're dealing with a new licence because of the position we're in, and one of the questions we're being asked to consider is whether the granting of that licence will impact upon the cumulative, the number of takeaways. But this takeaway has been operating for the last 5 years anyway, so it is part of that original community, I can't even say the word at the moment, you know the word I'm on about, cumulative impact area. So if you technically, if this was to be approved, it's not impacting by number because it's already considered in the original number. And I know it's a maths thing, but that's what we're being asked to consider. Is my logic correct?
Yes, the business has been operating since 2005. It was operating when the cumulative impact policy was introduced, and it's been operating up until 2 months ago in the city. So the answer is yes.
Thank you. So, and it's cumulative. I've got the word now. Sorry, apologies. My next question is between 2017 and 2022, when there has been no licence, has a licence fee been paid? Because otherwise, I guess that would have raised your concern.
Yes, it has. I believe that the licence fee was being paid by the licence holder, totally unawares that actually their licence, because of the dissolving of their limited company, was actually null and void.
Thank you for those clarifications.
I'd like to ask our officer, are you aware of any complaints to regulatory services connected with this business?
No, I'm not.
Now, if any of the other people in the room have any questions they'd like to ask of the officer, please go ahead. Okay.
Thank you, Chair, through you. No, I think I heard you correctly. You mentioned that it was something like 2005, this premises. I'm familiar with that premises long over being a takeaway or a fish and chip or something of that. Are you talking about the licence bit or the premises, running of the premises? It's two different issues.
Yes, Councillor. As I mentioned, from a local authority point of view, in relation to licensing, when the Licensing Act was introduced in 2005, the business applied for a licence and was granted one and has had one since, well, 2017. Now, whether it was operating prior to that, I alluded to the operators being able to maybe just let the councillors know of the trading history, but certainly our records go back to 2005.
So, Chairman, through you again, if I may, just to clarify the other point that Niall raised, I think he said 2017, the licence had expired or lapsed or vice versa. So my understanding of it is, I'm slightly concerned at how many other premises are like that, because I made some noises with Lloyd, but if the applicant or hadn't come for a change of use or change of name or whatever, then that means that this premises would have been running without a licence, without for future then. How would we know, or how many more of it like that then? That's my concern.
Yeah, I don't think that's relevant to this particular hearing. You're asking about a theoretical issue which would be beyond the focus of this. So I'll just move on if there are any other questions. Did you have a question? Okay, I can see.
My name is Mr. Tekaj. I'm owner of the Worcester Kebab House. I am there 20 years.
Asking questions now.
Yeah, Niall, I would like to know since the new flats they built next door, who complained, did you receive any complaints about noise or since one year, 1.5 years since we applied for new late night freshman licenses?
I think that matter was already covered by Councillor Agar. No, we haven't.
And also, I have documents I am paying every year the licenses.
No, at the moment, just question. No.
Okay.
Any of you? Maybe?
I can manage this if that's okay. Okay, so we now come to the applicant or licence holder to speak in support of your application. So it's over to you now.
Okay, yes. First of all, I would like to go holiday for a couple of months. Because of that, I would like to transfer the license to my nephew, which I give him since 1st of October 2018. Sub-leased, I am the main list holder. And because I'm not here for 2 months, and I would like to see if any issue, he can deal with that. And once I called to Niles, and Niles says he didn't have a license 2017 because the company limited was dissolved. And I didn't know the license have connection with the company limited. I thought the license is a connection with number 5 Shaw Street, Worcester Kebab House, Mr. Ismail Tekaj. I thought it's like this. I apologize. I am sorry for that. Otherwise, it's not big issue to transfer licenses. It's only £23. It's my mistake is that, but I didn't know the license has been cancelled because every year on the November 24, I receive the bills I have on my hand, the payment and the bill also, every year, and I paid. And Niall said to me, you didn't have license, you have to apply for a new freshman license and on your nephew name, whoever the company limited is on, which is Mangrove Limited, is my nephew, Waqas Tengiz. And then I shock and I run to next door of one of my next door called Spencer and Co, John Broser, and because I officially, maybe I can't talk properly to Niall, and I explained to John Broser called Niall. John say, go apply for late night freshman licenses. Niall say, relax, we will give them back. That's what he says to me. John Broser says. And straight away, I went to gentleman who does our job, and he applied for new licenses on my nephew names. And that was the situations. I would like to my licenses back because if I want to go find shop in High Street anywhere, number one, you have to have a license. Otherwise, the shop is nothing. And if you take my license off, and I'm saying the shop is nothing, please, I want my license back. And I make mistake. And I got no complaints before I apply for license from my next doors. If any complaint to cancel, you might have in your record. When I check in the police record, there is no issues in our road, no many issues. I put these papers in all of the shop, everywhere in shop. Please be quiet to customers and for my neighbors. And this is the proof. I take the pictures. And when I check the police record, it says here, Worcester City Council Statement License Policy 2014-2019, West Mercia Police in Commit online, is showing me there is in Shaw Street, I mark here, there is only one premises have license, Worcester Kebab House. And when I check in council website in Commit, and it's showing me you have your license. Because of those, how do I know my license has been cancelled if they didn't let me know? And I am very sorry. I think I make it mistake, yes. I make a mistake. I didn't ring you. About the limited company, but I didn't know the licenses have connection with limited company. I thought the license is number 5 Shaw Street, Worcester Kebab House. And their complaints, it says there is too much noise after 11th. We are here 20 years and we've got no issue from police, no much issue, you know, maybe once a year. And in police report, you can see that as well. When you compare it with Angel Place, in Angel Place in year, if there is 60 issues, in Shaw Street, maybe 1, maybe none sometimes. So please, I would like my licenses back. And also, I put the hours, previous hours, my previous licenses. Now I am opening, Monday I am closed, Tuesday I close 1 o'clock, Wednesday I close 1 o'clock, Thursday I close 1 o'clock, Friday, Saturday we close 3 o'clock. But I apply for previous license hours. We are closed early, and one day we are closing, you know. If please, I want my license back. I'm very sorry, I make it. Thank you.
Can I just clarify then? Is that an amendment? So the licence is still being applied for, as we're seeing in the application, even though we've just been informed that their operating hours are slightly different? Okay, thank you very much. Just want to make sure so people all understood.
Chairman, just one thing. Certainly in the address, it was highlighted that probably advice was given that they would definitely receive a licence. This isn't the case. Obviously, as long as it's noted, just for transparency and certainly for the residents, that isn't how the licensing office operates. So just for clarity, for the purposes of the residents, it was suggested that during a telephone conversation I'd given assurance that a licence would be issued. That isn't the case. Once I was aware that the licence had lapsed, the information was given that they need to apply for a new licence, and advice was given around the licensing process. At no point did I state that a licence would definitely be granted.
Excuse me, are they applying for an additional licence for Monday, please? Because they're not open on a Monday as yet. And that is the only night that we have free,
no.
sorry.
Chairman, if I may, just for clarity again, the applicant has applied for the days and times as highlighted at 2.5 of their application. Now, it is their choice how they operate within those times. So those are the maximum permitted hours. So if they choose to open on Monday, they can, because should a licence be granted, because that's what they've applied for. Now, how they operate within those times is entirely up to the management of the company. If they choose to close early, they can, depending on business need or depending on how they operate their business. But though the hours being applied for are what's being granted, so they can operate within those hours should a licence be granted.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the owners sort of try and mitigate. Yeah, I'm answering on behalf of the applicant. The hours are set on the paper as they are, but he closes it early or no business Monday. That's fine. Thank you.
I'm not seeing anybody identifying themselves as such. Any representative who wants to make representations to the subcommittee now? I think this is your opportunity. If you have anything to say. Now, we have had, there's quite a substantial communication which we've already read prior to the meeting. So if there's anything you wish to add to that or anything else you wish to say.
No, the gentleman over there said most of it for us, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Any councillor representing the area? You're not here in that capacity, so so we now move on to giving all representatives an opportunity to give any further information which they consider appropriate. Is there anything else? I don't think there's anything left unsaid. Is there anything more you want to add? I'm getting contented faces around the room, I hope.
I would like to add, yesterday afternoon about 4:30, I'm sorry I'm very shaky, I was on my disability truck. No, it hasn't got much to do with the case, but we've asked the lorries that delivered to the place not to park outside our gate. But yet, see, there was one out there and it caused an accident, and I was the person that was on the truck and I tipped over. The man did apologise and asked the man to move the lorry, but there's been an issue now for a while and it's ongoing. But nobody's bothered about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Basically, delivery. We was receiving delivery, and she was into gate, and she walked to me. She said, "Your delivery driver is parking here," and I just tell him to reverse it back a little bit. He wasn't blocking the gate because she was going to through, and that's all he was.
If I may be so bold, Chair, it would be very helpful and I think reassuring to the objectors, noting that you dealt with that issue at the time, if you can ensure delivery drivers in the future when they arrive, and I think you're going to say that that's what you're going to do. Perfect. Thank you.
Can I say something about the complaints for young ladies? We would like to do our best for them, We cleaning our fans normally once a year, but now we decided to clean 3 times a year to not making noise to be clean. And the gate, we did tell our all drivers to not park there, and there is also, they put signs there. And anything's happen, we are happy to help them much as we can. And thank you very much for that.
Okay, thanks. It's over to you, Niall, to make your closing statement.
Thank you, Chair, members. Yes, so you are asked today to consider an application for a new premises licence in respect of Worcester Kebab House at number 5 Shaw Street. You've now had the opportunity to hear from the applicant and the residents of Shaw Street who have put forward an objection to the application. You have the application in your papers, you know exactly the times, the days that they're applying for. We have certainly covered off the fact that the application is within a community of impact zone, but quite rightly by Mr. Pointed out by Councillor Mitchell, that the premises has been trading since 2005 up until very recently, so that is relevant. So members, you have to now consider the application and take one of the steps that were pointed out earlier on, and that's whether to grant the application as requested, modify the conditions by altering or adding to them, or reject the application in its entirety. Those are the matters before you, members. If there's any further I can clarify, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you. So it's now over to the applicant if you want to make a closing statement.
Basically, we are here for our late night freshman. The lady saying it was before 4:30, so that shouldn't be a problem. My case.
Chairman, if I may allow, obviously hearing from the applicants, you've heard that they would make all efforts to make residents well comfortable. I know the business was there before the residents, but any inconvenience to the residents, it's always a nightmare when a business operates prior to that. But nevertheless, they've given a commitment that they will make sure keep the residents happy, because it's in their both interests, residents and businesses. They employ something like, I think, 5 to 6 people and about 4 or 5 drivers. So it is a business that is run fairly accessible. I know current situations have given them a bit of a difficult time, and they're closing Monday and a few other earlier rather than later because the business doesn't allow it. So they make adjustments for their own use. And as I asked the question to Niall earlier on, if Mr. Ismail hadn't come to council to say that he's going to be away, being a proper businessman, he's allowed himself to be conducted in a manner that if he's away, that some business doesn't suffer, so he was going to allocate it to his nephew. In Heights, that's when we realised that the licence had expired in 2017. So having said all that, that's relevant in the two matter, but now the matter can be straightened, and I think that I will support his application to continue his licence as set up in the paper. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So over to our Legal Services Manager.
Thank you, Chair. You're invited to determine this application before you today, and you find yourself in a slightly unusual position, because normally when a new application is put before you, there isn't any history or knowledge of the business. That's frequently the case. For whatever reason, the licence holder at the time didn't notify the authorities that the business had dissolved, and that isn't information that regulatory services would have known about, and it is incumbent on any licence holder to make sure that information such as that is reported so that the proper paperwork can be put in place. But nonetheless, you are in a position where you are considering a new application and you must treat it as such. Although this has come about because the original request was for a transfer, this is a new application. And you're also asked to deal with this matter in terms of this being within the cumulative impact. And your cumulative impact policy makes it very clear that your start point for any application should be a refusal. And that is because a cumulative impact has already carried out an assessment to determine that anything added to that area would impact on that cumulative impact zone. And the point that's been properly made is that this business has been operating since from 2005 under the licensing authority. Prior to that, it was not operated by the licensing authority. It was a police function, which is why their records that licensing will only go back to 2005. This business could have been operating before that time. But what you have to take into account is any evidence in relation to the premises. And as I say, although you are dealing with this as a premises in the cumulative impact zone, this is a business that has already formed part of the substantive policy that led to the decision being made regarding that. So although your start point is refusal, that is something that you are entitled to have regard to. Put that to one side, because what you're now dealing with is the application per se, and you have to look at the evidence in relation to this business and any evidence that may undermine the licensing objectives. And as I say, as a new application, you're in a position where there will be no evidence because it's a new business that's operating. This isn't. So although this is a new business, as a new application, you are entitled to rely on information regarding the history, particularly because it is a business that's been operating under the current applicant's guise for some time, since what seems to be 2017. So you're entitled to take into account anything in that regard. And I has confirmed to you that there is nothing by way of complaint on regulatory services records. Members, it's for you to consider all that you have in front of you. There is a very detailed letter that is provided by the residents. There are some matters in that I would have to direct you to disregard because they don't fall within your remit. Matters such as parking, and I appreciate that that is something residents will be very concerned about, but it is not within your gift to deal with that. Another part of the council will have to would look at any issues concerning parking, and if there are concerns, residents can be directed in the correct direction, but in that direction. But I have to say to you, you are limited to what falls within your remit. But as experienced members, you will be aware of those matters within the letter that you are entitled to have regard to. My advice to you is you determine what weight you give to that evidence and whether that would undermine the licensing objectives, and to the balance whether or not you consider it appropriate to grant, refuse or grant this licence with conditions. Members, is there anything further I can assist you with at this stage?
Thank you. So we shall now adjourn to enable the subcommittee to discuss this privately. If you wish to wait outside, you'll be called back in when we've made a decision to inform you of the decision. Thank you. So the licence application has been approved, subject to the conditions already set out on page 34 of your papers. These describe the conditions that applied to the previous licence, and we will be attaching those same conditions to your application, which is for a new licence. So, thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you.